Well, welcome to the October 28th Richmond Housing Committee meeting. So sent out the agenda, wanted to talk about the housing, the presentation to the housing of the strategic housing plan to the select board. Wanted to talk a bit about how do we put these items that we said are our recommendations into practice. Um, and then updates on the housing section town plan. So I saw Virginia, you sent out a note about the upcoming presentation to the
Hmm.
town plan, or to the community on the town plan.
Looks like we
Um,
got the Water and Sewer Commission's attention anyway.
I
Yeah.
know, that was great. Yep.
Whoa.
Um, so yeah, we can talk about those things. Any other items or revisions to the agenda? Nope.
We're good to go.
So meeting minutes from September 23rd. Are we good as is, or any changes need to be made to the meeting minutes from September?
Look okay.
All right.
I'm good with them.
All right. So follow up on the presentation to the housing plan to the select board. So I think as all of you know, this past last Monday. So last Monday? Yeah, last Monday. Um I was in front of the select board and presented the town plan. I know Virginia and Connie, you were both on the phone. So you heard kind of my speech there. I'll share the screen of the slides that I had presented. But I mean, as Virginia, you mentioned, we got the attention of the Water and Sewer Commission. That was definitely a topic that was discussed quite a bit that evening. I think there were a few members that were also on the Water and Sewer Commission, so they had some input to say. But I'll see. Yeah, Connie, Virginia, any thoughts, feedback, things that stood out to you from Monday
Um,
week?
there were three things that seemed interesting to follow up on. One was water and sewer. The select board we need a solution to this, but we have no idea what it is. It seems to be a complete catch-22 or something like that, and is a knot that nobody can unpick. So that was one piece. Another piece was a point that Denise Barnard brought up that said that there's apparently some pot of money that doesn't exist until sometime in the future, like March of 2029, to the tune of $200,000 that could be used as a way to start funding housing. And it seemed like there were different perspectives on whether that was really true or not, but it's certainly something to understand better. I think I'd heard something about that in the past, but I'd never really given it a lot of attention. And the third one was Morgan Woolliver, who is the chair of the Water and Sewer Commission.
Hmm.
Is that right, Virginia?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And Morgan said it's not the money. Get the gateway together and have them come to a consensus of what they want. And he added it's $2 million to get water started at all. But he was like, start with community and work from there, which is something I've heard before around many kinds of projects, is like you start with the community. Um, and then back to the money piece. In addition to Denise, Jay thought that CHIP was a source of funds that should be explored. So one piece was water and sewer, one piece was money, and one piece was community, which is like a good breakdown of things that are needed in a way.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what I heard. And Virginia, you were there. Do you want to add to that?
Um, well, I guess the main points that were talked about were the water and sewer piece, because they felt somehow that we didn't know that the system was such that the current users were not going to ever be allowed to pay anything for this. And, to them, it was like, you people didn't really know that. This is a deal breaker. There's no point in talking about it. That's kind of what I heard from them, which one has heard many times from them, that we can't do anything about it. This is the policy. Well, it is a policy that the select board back in 92 put together. You can put another policy together. But anyway, the current users will never cooperate. The rest of the town will never cooperate. So that's it. That's the same thing that they've always heard. So it was interesting that Morgan Walliver reached out and said, well, why don't you come and talk to us about it? Because, to me, it's like, okay, so that means you people are just accepting as a fact that this small number of users in the community is always going to be responsible for this whole system, for paying for it. You're just accepting that as a fact. Is that, really what you want to hear? You don't want to think about it anymore? But, to their credit, they've thought about it many times and it just hasn't worked out. Anyway, so that's what I heard about the water and sewer. So I think it's interesting that the folks who are not select board members on the Water and Sewer Commission, which are Morgan Walliver and Aaron Farr, I think are the only two who are public members of that commission right now, are interested. So we need to have something to talk to them. This is a good thing for us to think about what we would like to say to them, since at least we have their attention. So that was the main thing that I heard. The thing about the Borden Street development, which is affordable housing development, is that we may never have that money. That was money that was supposed to go from that Cathedral Square Champlain Housing Trust development, was supposed to go into a revolving fund for developing new affordable housing. But they've never paid it back, and apparently they took out a further loan for another 15 years on that money that they considered to be a grant, really, and not exactly a loan. So I think one thing that we could do as a housing committee is really look into that situation. What exactly is that situation? How does that work? How should we be doing something about that? Anyway, so that was an interesting point that Denise brought up about affordable housing. And, Keith thinks it's not run very well, that affordable housing project either. So that would be something that maybe we could find out. If we're going to be interested in developing affordable housing, we need to know how it is working out, how that project is working out, and why, if it's not working out very well, why it is not working out very well. And, anyway, so that was my take on the situation.
So pretty much the things I said, just more information about them, right?
Yeah, kind of really looking into them more. And, maybe talking further to the Water and Sewer Commission about the gateway, just like I think the select board assumed we didn't know anything about the gateway and water and sewer. I'm not sure how much they know about the gateway and water and sewer. So, it's good. It will be good to have some kind of a discussion about that, I think. I don't know about the community piece that you mentioned, Connie. It's, that's very abstract, kind of. What does that mean exactly? So,
Well, since that suggestion came from the chair of water and sewer, that would be one of the things to talk about at the December 1st meeting. Morgan must have a thought in mind about what are you looking for exactly and how will that help you? And if we know what that is, I would be glad to work on a community consensus development, especially since Kristen West used to be on this committee and she lives in the Gateway. And I am sure she'd be interested in trying to figure out how to improve their water and sewer situation because she made that clear that that's what she was looking for when she was on the committee. But you have to know what is it that's needed. So you have to understand what's the underlying mechanism here. So I propose that we spend part of our time tonight, maybe this falls under the item called discuss how to put into action the strategic housing plan, what it is that we need from the water and sewer committee, what we hope to learn, and sort of the how do we go, what are the resources we need to kind of act on that? Because I think, I mean, if I step back, I think the select board, said, great, you did exactly what we asked for. Here's some things to think about. Keep going. I mean, I didn't hear anybody say, no, you're not looking at the right thing. I mean, all the work that we've done, and Mark, this is mostly with your leadership, to have done that, and Virginia as well, to have done those assessments that we presented a year and a half ago, and then to create a set of recommendations of here's concretely what needs to happen differently. I think the select board said you did what we asked you to do, and thank you, and keep helping us try to figure this out. We didn't say to the select board, you must do this, this, and this. We said, here are the things that need to be done. And these are the things that they picked up on and said, consider these as important starting points or ideas.
Yeah, and also we have another meeting before that December 1st meeting that we could work on this. And the other thing that I would like to say about the proposal to take sewer and water out to the gateway is I don't think we should forget that there are two other places anyway that we need to wait for the opportunity and can take water and sewer out there. One is at the Far Farm property. They do not want to do this right now, but the water and sewer ends at the Far Farm. That is a very good place to have more development. It's right next to it's within walking distance. You know, they don't want it. That's why we stopped thinking about it. But I think what we ought to do is to have something ready, a plan in place to go there. It's much easier than the gateway to go onto the Far Farm and to bring water and sewer out there. They may
Isn't
not
one or
always.
is one or the other there? Like water but not sewer or sewer but not water? Is that not true?
I think they have both. The stubs
Okay.
end right there for both of
Okay.
those. So, and they have water from the town. They also have their own well. So they have two sources of water. One is for the farm, I forget which one, and the other one is for their personal use. But so they have water, sewer ends right there. So that's one place that somehow we should have a plan about that when the opportunity arises, or we should have money when the opportunity arises, or something. The other place that is possible is down Cochrane Road after the St. Mary's Cemetery. There's a 90-acre parcel of land that's owned by the Barretts, Rick and Chi Barrett. And when we were talking about water and sewer on the Planning Commission, we asked the Barretts if that 90-acre undeveloped portion of land, some of it is hilly, but it's not all hilly. It's not all ridgeline and slope. If they would be interested in having that included in the water and sewer district so that lines could be extended to that area. That's also another place that's adjacent to the village. It's walkable to the village just about. they asked their two sons, who are in their 30s, I guess, maybe in their 40s, probably in their 30s. And the son said, "We like it just the way it is. We don't want any building here." But that is a place that I think we should have a plan about. You know, we should talk about it, and we should cultivate the Barrett boys, men, and look at that land. And, you know, that's the other place where it would be easy, because the stubs of the water and sewer end right before the St. Mary's cemetery.
So that's the case where, let's say the Barrett boys were interested in development, there would still need to be an expansion of water and sewer, and you'd still have the problem of a small number of people having to pay for a lot of money. Is that true?
Well, it depends. It's 90 acres, and I don't know exactly the topography and the configuration of that parcel of land, but it's a big enough piece that maybe a bigger developer could be there. And maybe, you know, I mean, we just need to not forget somehow about that. That's a place where we're ready to do something. It would be easy. It wouldn't cost $2 million to take those stubs that already go to the cemetery, just beyond the cemetery.
Yeah, can I add something real quick on that? Like if you, let's say, let's talk about a hypothetical. I was trying to find that lot on an aerial map and I can't do it real fast right now, but that doesn't really matter. Let's say it was, are you talking like it's a quarter mile or a half mile or 200 yards? What type of distance are you talking about running something?
Well, so I think it's Tyler Merritt and Catherine McIntyre have the property right before the cemetery. And I would say it's the cemetery width is not more than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, that tiny little one. Okay. So I don't know, the million dollar question is who pays for it, but hypothetically, if they're what happens in real estate development from a developer's perspective, what they do is we have maps. Look at all the map overlays. Where are the wetlands? Where's the traffic corridors? And where's public water, sewer, and natural gas? And you start to layer those on top, and the lots become more valuable the more of those things that stick together. And those, whoever these folks are, I don't know them, but whether they or the FARs or any landowner wants or does not want to do something, when the infrastructure is in place, the developer walks up and sooner or later gives them a deal they can't really pass up and says, okay, look, you don't have to do anything at all. Give us 10 years. Let's say I'm the developer. I will pay for all of the permitting and engineering. I'll pay the $500,000 it takes to take this through environmental court, take this through permitting. I'll take that risk. But with that risk in your 90 acres where it's quarter acre density, let's say hypothetically, I want to have the upside on those lots. So instead of paying you $30,000 per lot, I'll pay you $10,000 per lot. But if I spend 10 years and I don't get this permitted, I'm out $500,000, that's on me. And I lose that money. It's not the landowner. So the deals that are presented to people that have these parcels, they often it's life-changing money because it's $3.5 million that is paid out in 3 years. And it definitely can be life-changing money. Right now, they might not realize that that would be their opportunity, but some developer out there sees it. And when you extend things like the state Act 47 or whatever it is, like we did, that tells developers, hey, start looking deeper in Richmond. So I don't know who would pay for this short extension, but if somebody did, somebody would come knocking on their door and say, look, here's what I'll do. I'll give you $25,000 per approved lot when we're said and done, or $20,000 per approved lot. And they're sitting on a lot density per se of 360 lots. Not that 360 are going to go in there because of the topography that you talked about, but maybe in a not that parcel, but some parcel 50, 60, 70. it adds up really fast. And that's where the developer is attracted to the parcel and the infrastructure and what the landowner wants. That's fine. They don't want it. Money talks in everybody's world. Everybody has problems to solve. So I don't think we should be short-sighted by the fact that some people don't want something in their
Right.
front yard. Like, it's public good. I mean, it's not going to cost them anything. It's going to show up in their front yard. So that's my soapbox on that.
So what do you think that this committee should do other than, I mean, to me, it means developing some kind of pipeline to talk to these folks or to let them know the situation and how, you know, how the land, so to speak, lays. And, you know, I mean, these are kids and they will need the money at some point, you know? So we just need to know something about the situation, I guess, is what I think we ought to do, is that both the Farr Farm and the other farm, we should be involved in working with it somehow. That's
Well,
all.
especially along that kind of connecting corridor between Cochrane and going out towards Heinsberg, because it could be a very transition out of a flood district village into a more stable long-term village of Richmond, where it kind of moves across the river a little bit, where there becomes two sides to the river, and that corridor could have sidewalk. God forbid,
Right,
crazy idea, have sidewalks and
right,
other business ventures on that side of the river. There's over time, over 100 years, those things are going to happen. So having a vision for what, you know, 3 generations from now get to enjoy, that's will happen whether people like the change or not. So you're
right.
exactly on the right track, I would think.
And there's, in terms of the Farr parcel, if the Farr uplands piece, you know, the lowlands piece next to the river is in the floodplain, that will not be developable. That's like the gateway in a way, in that one half of the possible expansion of the sewer district is not useful. But that could be the farm land, you know. But beyond that, just beyond the Cross Vermont Trail, there's a 3-acre parcel on the other side from where the Farr barns are. On the side where the Farr house is, you have the house at the S-curve, and then you have the Cross Vermont Trail, and then you have this 3-acre parcel that's quite high, that's out of the floodplain, which to me would be a great little place for like a 10 or 12 unit development, you know? I mean, connected with a sidewalk or something, which I want to get to the Cross Vermont Trail from the village anyway. It would go past the Farr Farm development if that was developed, but you know, that could be in the plan as well. That's on the corner of the Heinsberg Road and the Huntington Road.
Yeah, and
So,
if you start to go down that avenue, looking at a map, you just connect Thompson Road to the back side of Farm Farm, and you have multiple means of egress and ingress for platted housing up there behind the highway garage.
are you getting that message?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tough road to take over the hill to the Huntington Road, Thompson Road, but you do have some area up there at the top of Thompson Road. So anyway, I just think that those are the kinds of things that if we're really looking at the long term, that we should be understanding those situations and how
Well, I
they
mean,
might evolve.
I think the recommendations that we've put together in the strategic plan are really about taking advantage of future opportunities that we have yet to know what they are, right? I mean, the looking at, is there a different approach we can take to make it easier for water and sewer to extend lines, right? And so that could go in multiple different directions. But if we work on the process to say, hey, it doesn't take just those few folks to approve an extension and pay for an extension. the possibilities are maybe not endless, but there are a lot of possibilities on how that could potentially be extended. Putting
Yeah,
together a system to have a housing fund, like we don't need to know how we're funding it yet, but maybe part of this, like the Champlain Housing Trust, you know, con uh, uh money or loan that was distributed, right? We would have a place to deposit that if that money could be used for future housing, right? So it's setting that up. And maybe on Champlain Housing Trust, maybe they're not going to cut us a check or pay back that whole 200,000, but maybe there's some discussions around how they could leverage some of those proceeds from that Champlain Housing Trust project into another project that we're doing, right? That maybe it's not cash that we're getting, but maybe there's another project that we could work with them on, right? In lieu of paying back the loan, or maybe there's the loan forgiveness happens if we, um, for that first loan, if we work on a project together for another loan. So,
so, and I think that we should not say we're going to do one thing before we do the other, because I think both are necessary. I mean, I heard the select board member, I forget who it was, say, we don't even want to start thinking about having a different funding mechanism if we don't have a plan for what might happen. That's why having these pieces that we're working with is important, I think, because at the same time as we're really have we looked at all the grant funding and funding sources and all the other things and understand how development works. At the same time, we do have these possible future situations that those things could be applied to. So I think we need to work all the angles at the same time, gradually over time. And then, you can tell people who say, well, why even bother to change the funding mechanism? Well, we have these possibilities. Why have these possibilities when you don't have the funding mechanism? Well, we're working on that too, So I think they have to be kind of done together.
well, so a couple of takeaways, I think, from just that discussion. Planning for the water sewer talking points for December 1st. Maybe we can have a small team look into the Champlain House, the Borden Street development. And what that looks like. And then the final one, which I think you mentioned, Connie, was an application for CHIP. A CHIP grant. Like I know Jay was mentioned that a couple times. I don't even know what that process looks like, or do we have to have a project in hand to apply for funds for CHIP, or is it you apply with some things in mind and then you develop a plan? Like, I don't know what that.
I don't either. I don't know what that legislation, I have read it, but I don't really remember how it all was laid out. And, there's a significant town learning curve, I think, associated with doing any kind of increment financing situation. So that needs a lot of, thinking about and understanding. All of these things, I think, need a lot of understanding. The other thing that could use a lot of understanding is the people who currently live in the village and who pay these bills need to understand what's coming down the pike in terms of expense for them. I mean, they may be interested in looking for other ways to go about things when they understand how much it's going to cost with this new $20,000 or whatever it's going to be upgrade to the sewer plant that's going to be happening at some point.
Is that technically in the floodplain? The sewer treatment plant?
It's up, it's raised up.
It is up, but I don't know what the rules are, the flood plan. I mean, there's there's a fake hill that it's on, right? The
The
man-made.
mound,
So
yeah, it's on a mound, and some of its sewers are in the floodplain and under the flood waters. But I think it's probably high enough. Anyway, I mean, all of these things, every time we start talking about this subject, I feel like there's so much I don't know about it, about every part of it, that it would be good to have a crash
well, if you
course.
might be looking for a committee member, Virginia, you could always join another committee if you wanted to. In town.
Um,
Yeah.
one thing is, one thing this committee does is it asks people with expert opinions or abilities to come and talk to us and teach us. Although that could also be pointing us to a website or a video or a conference talk or something like that that could explain what was taking on. In other words, before you do research, you need to know where you're going to do your research. What are your credible sources and who's most likely to be able to skinny it down so that it becomes an understandable amount of material to grasp without trying to memorize the encyclopedia. So Virginia, you said we should try to do several different things, but we don't have to try to do them all at once. We can, we've got an upcoming water sewer committee meeting, and Mark said we need talking points or talking questions. One or the other. What is it that we need to learn about? What do we need to learn from what the water sewer committee thinks that they need? So I think that's an important opportunity and one that's coming soon. The other things that you mentioned, somebody must know about the CHT loan. Somebody needs to know about CHIP funding. And certainly reaching out to Richmond water sewer customers is something that, the Water Sewer Commission might actually help us understand what is it that they need to know and what they've done already. I don't like to jump into something until I've found out what there already is to know about it. So, and that means usually talking to people, like people on the Water Sewer Committee, who I'm sure have been thinking about this for a long, long time. We're missing one thing. Shoot, what was it? But sorry. Well, it's okay. What I want to do is go back to Andrew's picture of if we can help developers see the town as an attractive place to invest in, then the developers will do a lot of this work. I think that's the bottom line of what you said, Andrew, is help raise the overlay connections that make development interesting, and don't expect, invest the money that brings the developers who will invest the money is sort of what I heard you say. Did I get that right?
People that develop land do it for a business and they're smart. They're really smart about how they do it. And they have a lot of tools that they can look at. So yes, they can look at, there's like specific overlay tools that will lay out your cost per acre, cost per unit that you should pay for something that has this utility, that utility, that utility. And you can go into all like overlay the Vermont sites. And that's what they do. It's called bird dogging. People bird dog. When you bird dog, you go out and you just cold call landowners based on the density, the zoning, and the infrastructure that's in front of their parcel that you can possibly talk to them about, hey, this is what it could be. Very rare, like Haystack that we met with Heinsberg about. That's how I don't believe the landowners were actively trying to sell that. The development group actively found them and said, hey, look, this is what you're sitting on. This is what it could be. This is what you could do. And it took 12 years, but that's all going to market in the next 60 days. So, yes, that's open for business is one thing, but just having any infrastructure in front of attractive parcels will bring people asking questions, and sooner or later, that infrastructure doesn't go to waste.
So that's why you regularly say we should make the water sewer expand, make the water sewer expand. That's one of the key variables that
Yes.
helps developers come in. And what the water sewer committee is saying, come and talk to us. And what we know is that there are some pretty key properties related to water sewer expansion, Gateway, Far Farm, and now the Barrett's farm down on Cochrane Road. So that expanding the water sewer is like the the linchpin, whatever they call it, the keystone and the arch that holds everything together or that you can build on. Seems like the thing that Richmond can do to attract more developers. We could also look at Borden Street funding and see what the heck is going on there. We could also look at CHIP. That's another very practical thing to do. But to me, that means finding people who already know about this, who can tell us about it, rather than doing primary research on those things.
Yeah,
Is
and
that,
it's a long-term project, you know. I mean, it's not like we're going to do this week or this month or even before December 1st. We're not going to do that. We're going to have to
It's
be
all everything.
laying the groundwork, you know. That's anyway.
right? Mark, does
Some
that sound like,
communities
go ahead,
Some
Andrew.
communities levy stormwater fees. So just because people complain about not wanting to expand, if you look at Colchester or I think Colchester might be the only Chittenden County one that does it, but if you get into central Vermont, there's quite a few municipalities that do that. If you're not on a public sewer or water, they don't care. They're still going to send you a bill every month that goes up over time for sewer control, because
we did
you
that in Williston.
are, yeah, you're a user of that community. So sorry, you might have to pay for some of the infrastructure outside of your property taxes that are really high. We get it, but these things are public goods, especially in today's flood-stricken, environmentally conscious, failing infrastructure society. Like most of the septic systems that are probably around Winooski River in Richmond are probably 50 years old. They probably should go, and they just dump poop into the river that goes into the lake.
Well, before we start raising people's taxes, we should probably find out the answers to those other two questions about CHT and CHIP, because that won't be considered like the first option.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like the end thing that happens sooner or later. And you talked about Virginia or Connie about community engagement. And part of it is saying, okay, like, yes, I understand you don't want to pay more in today's world. It's like anything else. If you have a roof over your house that's faulty and the ridge line starts to fail, and there's a little bit of water that starts to come in the corner, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just over the garage and it's just a little bit of water, and you ignore it for 3 years, and then moss grows under it, and then it spreads, and now you have mold, and now the whole roof system has failed, the plywood has failed, the sheathing has failed, and everything's got to go. And instead of spending the $1,000 to fix the ridge line, now you have $40,000 in a roof and truss system. It's no different than like the environmental and social and societal impacts of these infrastructure pieces that fit together. So trying to talk to the community about not doing something now about this will cost you more money in the future. I assure you. Like you can map it out and show examples of other communities that are written and documented. Your taxes will go up if you don't act now. Acting now prevents that increase in your water usage bill because there's only X number of users. So I think that's the way that you can actually start to resonate with people with very simple numbers that show other real life examples in communities like ours, which they exist. They absolutely do.
And, you know, as we found with the town plan work, this is a very difficult conversation to have with people, and people aren't kind of ready for it. You know, we've been cruising along. When we read the 2018 town plan, we've been cruising along thinking, well, we're always going to have natural areas. Well, the town hall, you know, we're not really going to need to do that much to it. And then the $10 million bond comes for doing the repairs now to the town center building that are going to prevent it from being $20,000, you know, and then the sewer plant infrastructure. I mean, all of these things, somehow we need to have this conversation over and over again with people so that they understand the situation. So, and I think it's the same with the water and sewer, tiny number of users on this system. Do you want it always to be this tiny number of users who are paying for the system? Anyway, so it's just, they're not easy conversations. They're going to take a long time. There's going to have to be some consistent work on that. piece. So,
Well, let's move
Get it
in.
done
Hey, Marie,
December 1st.
yeah, good to see you. Um, let's
Mar-
move on to the second agenda.
Marie put something in the chat that is worth just a quick conversation since it's coming up this Wednesday, tomorrow night. Marie, did you want to say something about it?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously came in after the middle of the conversation that you all were having, but just by way of quick note, Connie, it sounded like you were interested in finding some resources that could help educate us, us as a committee, and maybe more broadly the community. But I think about how CHIP works. I think tomorrow's presentation looks like it, it's squarely for housing committee members by the regional and regional like planning commission. So yeah, I just thought I would drop it there. I wonder if they'll record because there's a possibility I won't be able to attend, but I had the intention to try to.
Thanks for identifying that, Marie. I don't know if I'll be able to attend, but I'll put it on my calendar. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be the right person to try to be the expert on CHIP, but I could try to learn a little bit about it. Mark, I'm sorry. Thanks for that break. Go ahead.
Okay, well, just moving on to the second agenda item, really, I think we've already been talking about it, but what do we want to put into action? And from the strategic plan, what are some of our near term action items? What do we see might be more long term? And then like thinking through like how do we accomplish them? So if we look through the plan, and I can pull it up, there is there's a lot to it, right? I mean, there's a lot of points. We are a very small committee, so so I guess just looking through like how do we prioritize, and what I didn't have time to do it before the meeting, but was thinking of like if there are a few items that we want to talk about, we want to action upon sooner rather than later. Maybe we set some horizons like between now and the middle of next year, and then from that, like we could put them into a project plan, into a document, and just be able to kind of track some of our progress and kind of break it up in that way. I think after the plan, the presentation to the select board, I know Connie texted me and I, you know, about the water sewer piece, and I was like, it seems like a really big hurdle to accomplish, but and maybe pushing that off, but I think with our invite that we have to come and talk to the water sewer commission, it's a good opportunity to maybe start talking through that as well. So what I maybe wanted to spend some time on is just go through the 4 sections and see like what is it that we maybe want to action upon sooner rather than later. We can put it into a plan, and then we can kind of talk about like how does the work get divided up among the committee. Does that sound good?
Sure.
So
That's a good moment to do that.
I mean, since we have this invite for December 1st, at some point we might want to try to figure out what we want to ask them or talk to them about what we want to say to them. I mean, that seems like maybe a short-term thing, is to understand whether they're just going to say, well, what do you want to do or suggest, or, I don't know, we have no idea, but we might want to figure out what we want to ask them, perhaps, or not.
Shall we start there?
yeah. Well, do we want to spend time to do that tonight? It wasn't on the original agenda, or do we have, I think someone pointed out we have one more meeting before December 1st. We want to table that December 1st meeting.
We could. I do want to ask if us to consider rescheduling the 25th, because I won't be able to make it. But
Remember, yeah, I
I,
mean, isn't that
I'm gonna be
Thanksgiving?
away. Sorry?
Isn't that
It's
Thanksgiving?
it's Thanksgiving week and the week is packed for me.
Yeah.
And I really can't do anything much this month because of the town plan work. You know, we have the presentation on the 4th, then we have the planning commission meeting on the 19th of November, then we have Thanksgiving. Then we have to try to assess any comments that have come in and anyway.
Okay.
I kind of don't want to think about any of this right now, but I know that we should.
Okay, well, let's see if we can maybe get through just highlighting a few areas and then talk real quickly about the town plan document, recruitment, and then see if we can circle back around to the water and sewer questions. And if we don't get to them, then maybe we can someone help draft some questions and we can just plan to have those ready for next
I
week.
think that we could get lost in a water sewer conversation with the water and sewer district for hours trying to figure out what they know, what we know, what we think, what they think. I think really the best thing that we could spend our time right now on is figuring out the first step that where these things connect together. And I think the biggest question that we talked about early in this call was about the policy that doesn't allow it, that the self-created policy that doesn't essentially allow any expansion. And ask questions around that topic and why it's there, how it serves the district well, how it doesn't, and ask them what are their opinions of how does it serve the water district well, how does it not serve the area well, how does it serve Richmond well, how does it not serve Richmond well, and see what their opinions are of the fact that basically it's a don't pass go when it comes to funding expansion and financing expansion. Would that seem reasonable as like our goal of conversation is for us to learn more about that and what there's things that maybe I don't know, we don't know about why that self-created policy is in place. I know other communities have had that policy and they have removed that policy and changed their policy and said, actually, no, we see this as a public good. Therefore, we're going to change our policy before we have to start charging stormwater fees to everybody who's on their own private sewer and water, since they're not willing to cooperate. So that's where I think the focus of the conversation would want to be is around that concept of who pays for expansion.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the conversation always stops,
Yeah.
with that
So I think
point.
that's the most important thing to camp on.
So we've got to find out why they are adamant that nothing can be done about it. So,
And they're right from a policy perspective based on their district currently and the users on their district. The bigger question is as the why does it need to be like that? And what mechanisms are there in place for any body of power, be it a state house, a local select board, or a district commissioner, whatever it might be? Is there any means, like how did the policy get changed before? And what are their mechanisms of their bylaws and the fine print of that? And why is that important? And why are those the only users that it matters to? And maybe we should have a counter argument about why it's in the betterment of everyone within the community that we all live in to support this infrastructure, and everybody gains a benefit from it long term from property tax reduction or not excessive growth for people that aren't in that district, because people are going to start to pay for some of the ramifications of not having an appropriately served district. It's going to waste money, and there'll be a breaking point with the infrastructure where that district users can't pay for a massive overhaul of whether it's in 3 years or 10 years or 50 years, it'll happen if they don't expand.
and it would be also interesting to know how, so the town pays all of the people who are not on the system. Were brought into the system when the new holding tank was built up on the Jericho Road in order to pay for the water that might be used by the fire department to put out a fire on their house, which is not on the system. So they pay a small amount. I don't know what that amount is, but it was like a step into the system for the townspeople who have always been opposed to paying for the system because they say we pay for our own system. How can we pay for this system? But they were required to pay for the fire water that might be needed to put out their house. So that would be, kind of, is it like 1% of the whole budget? Is it 10% of the budget? Is it, and what about the schools that their children go to that use this water and sewer system? Anyway, those kinds of things.
And all the businesses they work at. If anybody supports a local Richmond business or works in a place that is served by public water and sewer, degrading infrastructure in those facilities will have a negative impact on them. It'll have a negative impact on our attractability as a community to live in, to invest in. It's basic. It feels to me like a really basic application of just like common essential human needs. And just because you're out on a well, like for instance, the community, the neighborhood I live in has 74 homes in Southview and Hidden Pines, and I can count 12 that in the last 12 months have had a well run dry. This is going to happen year over year. It's not like this is a blip in the radar. I think we all know that we're going to probably face other climatic change where we're going to have water restrictions and not access to water and all the wells that these people are happy to have when they run out of water, they're going to come to the town and say, "Where's my water?"
We also need to find out if there is water in this extra water in the system because they have had a conserve water notice because the tank was not filling. So anyway, what is the actual capacity of the sewage treatment plant? What is the actual capacity of the well? Do they know, the answers to those questions? So anyway, that would be good to understand, I think, so that we're not trying to, put a lot more people onto a system that maybe is already not functional. Anyway. Good questions, I think.
You feel like we now have a list of questions?
You recorded all that,
You really
right? We
snuck
just
that
get
in,
that
didn't
back.
you?
Well, I think it's just a basic question that will spawn a lot of sub
Discussion.
questions. And Andrew, it sounds like you and Virginia are going to be the ones present for that meeting. I didn't see Mairead respond, and maybe Mairead can go as well, but I cannot.
Mark,
Yeah.
are you going to that meeting?
December 1st. What time is that one at? Is that 7?
It's 6 o'clock.
6:30. Yeah,
6, I think,
6.
something.
I might be able to go. I have a scouts meeting that night, so it depends on if I have coverage for that or not.
Yes, I intend to be there.
Yeah, I
And Virginia.
Mhm.
And Mairead?
Yeah, I thought I read it as November 1, which was feeling way too close in time. But yeah, I think I can probably secure a babysitter with this advance notice. So I'll try to do that and try to get there remotely.
That's great.
Or I guess there's an in-person option too, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they generally meet in person? Or do they meet on remote?
I think they meet hybrid,
Okay.
but they meet at the town center.
Okay. All right. So coming back up to the top here, we had the zoning recommendations. This was really around zoning and subdivision regulations to allow commercial and village commercial housing and commercial and village commercial districts. I see
Yeah,
this really as part of the planning commission. Is this something that's on your agenda at some point?
Yeah,
Virginia?
so we'll have to, we can't do anything about this until it comes up before the planning commission, which is, pretty soon after we finish with the town plan business. Then it's finishing the village zoning. We need to talk to the people in the Railroad Street Business Commercial District, and also down there at the Round Church Corners Complex District, that we would like to be in the Village Commercial District. It is currently just in the Commercial District. Anyway, it's a little complicated, and but we'll get there. So I wouldn't do anything about that for the moment.
Is this like a 2026 item?
2026, yeah. 2026.
2026. Okay, cool. So that one's some notes. Expand current density bonus program to all zoning districts. Is this a planning commission item too?
Yeah, that's planning commission.
And is this something that's been discussed? And is this a 26 item or further out or closer in?
We might do that in 26. In 26, we're going to tackle probably the ag res district based on the new mapping that is going in with the regional plan that we have incorporated into our new municipal plan. The new regional plan is going to be adopted in July. Our plan, we hope, will be adopted in March. So I don't know if it's 26, but it'll be 26, 27. I mean, that's on our fairly short list. The height of the buildings, I don't know when we're going to talk about that. So I think the number one item on this list is the one that, if we're picking one out, that it would be the next one in line to do.
I'm assuming the available height is a planning commission item too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's going to have to be a community discussion, and I don't know when we'll have that. The trails people are wanting us to have the trails discussion first. So, yeah, the next
So
few
what did you
years.
say was the number one item, Virginia? I missed it.
Well, number
The-
one on this list
Okay,
is the one that we're probably going to get to the first out of these four things.
Yeah. So not
Got it.
in here, Virginia or Connie, to our, it's in the file. It's in our file structure.
yep.
And then the pieces with Keith, right? So this is around the zoning office, revised zoning.
Yeah, we will probably get to those in 26. Those
Is this something that would be
kinds of
led
changes.
by Keith? With our support, I mean, the housing committee support, is this stuff more on the planning commission? Is this still more planning commission items?
It's more planning commission, but with the support of the housing committee, we're trying to get all of the different committees that were interested in changing the zoning, of which there were many. There are many people who felt that all our problems would be solved if we just updated the zoning regulations. Well, in many cases, the zoning regulations are not the problem. But anyway, these are actual specific things that Keith and I hashed out along with the Planning Commission at great length that actually would be useful to be done, that where everybody is on the same page, even the planner and the DRB, they're all on the same page that these would make things better. They're very specific things. So we will be working on those in 26. But I don't think, the housing committee should just support them, basically, support it. I'll tell you if more needs to be done from the housing committee's point of view.
Okay, cool. All right. Funding affordable housing projects. So town support, empower the town manager to write letters of support. I mean, I think this, from where we could support from the planning commission or from the housing committee, I feel like is we could put together a template. right, and say, here's a template that could be used. I guess what needs to be done is there anything that needs to be done to like bestow power on the town manager or whomever to say, yes, if this comes across your desk, you're able to use this template to send it out? Is that something like we need to get in front of the select board and get them to, yeah, I can blow this up, to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that the town
that's
manager
good.
has the
Bigger,
power to
better.
do it?
Yep. Well, I think the select board would have to approve it.
Through housing committee to draft letter. Draft the letter template, right? That could be used.
Yeah, we might be able to find a template like that from like Heinsberg or some other
I
town that,
have, yeah, I have like 10 of them. I think they're actually in our folder.
okay.
And the expedite clear guidelines, I mean, you'd have to work on that, what that means.
Right, pre-approved template and clear guidelines to expedite the process. Right, yes, right. We have to create some type of process. So is there certain criteria that need to be met to like for the town manager to feel comfortable to send that letter out or something like that? But example letters of support. So they're in here. 1, 2, 3. I got a whole bunch from a bunch of different for a bunch of different projects that were letters of support.
Right?
So let's just say this is a 2026 item. I think this is a lower hanging fruit to just like this is something that we could do. Housing trust fund. So I feel like this is not easy, but also I don't know how hard it would be. I feel like some lawyers need to get involved, and we probably need to do some research on how these mechanisms work. And you know, I think the example or the recommendation I got from Heinsberg was around making sure that it's built in such a way that it could be like a tax deductible donation if somebody wants to donate money. So depending on how it gets set up, it could be a good tax deductible donation.
But setting it up is different than funding it. So you
Yeah.
have to set it up before people give money to it. And you can set it up with little or practically zero money as a balance, but it does require a lawyer to say, yep, you did this right. This is how it gets used. So that's an investment the town has to make in order to set this up. So we
Yeah.
need to know what's this going to cost in order to do that and make a request.
And, you know, I mean, there will have to be a discussion had about holding money for the town. There is always a discussion about this question, you know, how much money does the town want to hold of people's money before it's being spent, and what are the rules around spending it? And I don't know, all of those questions would have to be discussed, and I guess with the select board would be the first set of people. Whether it would have to go to a town vote or not, I don't know.
It would be a budget item.
Mhm.
Even if it was a basically unfunded fund, it would still have to have some kind of, as I said, infrastructure around it. So
Mhm.
we have to figure that out and then make a proposal to the select board.
Probably by next budget season, not this budget season, so.
Yeah, not this budget season.
Well,
Where do we put this in order of priority? Is this 26, 27, 28? Do we start it in 27 with a goal of 28 or 26 with a goal of 27?
Well, if we want to do it for the 26 budget season, we'd have to start it pretty soon, but we have a lot of things like the water sewer project and the zoning project, which are all in 2026, and we can't do everything all at once.
Are in
That's
26
a rule.
and so. All right, we had this whole thing about master plans in the gateway.
I think that's going to have to be a little bit later. People are a little bit sick of the gateway right now, thinking about it, because it was so difficult when people were thinking about it before.
I
Yeah.
think you have to do the sewer thing first.
What was that, Connie?
I think the water sewer piece has to come first. I mean, it's such an essential part of having a master plan.
I mean, I don't know, is it a kitchen chicken or an egg type thing, right? Where the master plan provides a framework for extension to the, for extension into of the water sewer district into the gateway.
Has there ever been
Right.
like I mean, probably not, but like when we talk about a master plan for the gateway, what has that ever looked like? Has there ever been anything other than like a hodgepodge idea of a couple apartment buildings and some extension lines? Or have they ever thought about like what truly could be done with the real estate that's available that's outside of floodplain?
Not that I know of. No master
Okay.
plan has been done. And
Okay.
that would, it would be good to look at what actually can be done with that land that is in the gateway, because it is riddled with running water coming through the highway. And
The
I
only
don't know. I
the
don't know
only
how
reason
much can be actually done with the land on the gateway. And then the Governor Peck Road and the mobile home park. That was always the kind of the gold star piece, was to have water and sewer that went all the way out to the mobile home park.
There's probably 8-ish acres that are positioned currently that are owned land, if not more, probably more actually now that I think about it, along those lots. One of them recently sold. Now it's a commercial building, a shared use commercial building. It was a rundown rental property sold for 575, and now somebody rehabbed it and they're doing shared use. It looks like commercial
Oh,
space.
Spark Studios.
Spork maybe or Spark, yeah,
I think
that
it's
black
Spark.
looking,
Yeah,
yeah, that building. That's
right.
over $575,000 for that lot. Like it's a very large lot. And if you combine like just pie in the sky vision of like what the combination of all those lots would look like from a quote unquote master plan perspective, incorporating interstate exchange concepts. Like if the town could, if we could find somebody who did something more or less pro bono that provided some cool sketches of what it might look like, do you think there would be any value in that?
Well, it also might be possible to get a grant to do that, to get a regional planning. We get some free hours from them if we got onto their UPWP, their work program. That is the kind of thing that they do. They could probably do a master plan with those,
it was
like a scoping study, like the initial that they do for transportation. They do a scoping study. What is the possibility here? What are the possibilities? What are the problems? What are the, constraints? So it might
It's
be
a
a grant
prime
funding.
it's such a prime location. So I think it could be down the line for the planning commission and things like that. I think from a housing committee perspective, the outside of Far Farm, like the play to maintain reasonably affordable housing, it's connecting the mobile park to the town water sewer. And the gateway's the benefit of that, like the carrot. And having the mobile park have that ability to tie in would be able to maintain that community there long term, because sooner or later the infrastructure, like I keep talking about, will fail, and like that's not going to work there, and they'll have to figure out a different potential use for that land. So
When
it's
I
like there's two pieces there that can connect together. And I mean, the park and ride there, I think I've heard or read, is the busiest park and ride in the state, if not the second busiest park and ride in the state. And my joke with everybody that I talk real estate with when they're looking to buy a home in Chittenden County is Richmond is close to nothing but convenient to everything. So like that exit 11 is so convenient to the entire central and northern Vermont corridor. The opportunity is endless of what could make sense in that gateway. It could be everything from Montpelier North, where instead of Waterbury in a flood zone, they move a bunch of state commercial buildings there where there's 500 workers in that spot, or there's 200 apartment buildings, or there's commercial opportunity, or there's it's really endless based on the true location on 89 and how critical that is to serving Montpelier, Burlington, and St. Albans.
So when talking to CCRPC, they said there was a grant window that was open earlier this year for just that, doing
Those types of things.
a master plan. So, we get on the short list there. I don't think it's something that we do ourselves, but we help facilitate the process of getting some grant funding.
Yeah,
I'm-
putting it in front of them to know that it could be a valuable and this is not something that's gonna, I'm not naive. It's not like a 2 to 5 year thing. It's like a 15 to 35 year window. So, but just sometimes when people see visually, it's gonna freak out about 45 to 65% of the people, and the other 25-ish% will be like, oh, that's like part of the community engagement, where when a few influential people buy in that other people trust, as the conversation goes on in the community, it starts to gain a little bit of traction. I think the visual piece with numbers to back it up might be helpful. So I don't think it's the highest priority. I think the other things we talked about are definitely the things that we could actually accomplish in 2026, but I wouldn't want to let that keep getting pushed down the line too far if there's grants where we can find the ability to have a visual concept that we could show people versus just me talking too long on Zoom calls.
Well, I just want to say something you touched on is the community engagement for a master plan is key. You cannot go and create a plan and not have the community be involved. And there's more than one kind of community in that particular, pathway or channel of road. So that is a key part of it. And it doesn't matter if there's a grant that supports a scoping study, because if you don't bring the community along, nothing will happen with it. So just know that takes that piece of the plan's work, is community involvement. in my
The-
opinion.
Want to be cognizant of time here. We got about 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this already, we're applying in January for a UPW grant to look at the intersection of Railroad Street and Jolena Court and Bridge Street. So I don't know if that uses up our, what they will do for us next
I
year.
think this would be on top of that. We'd have to seek additional funding on top of our typical allotted hours. All right, partner with housing organizations. Where do we see this falling?
Well, we're gonna go to Champlain Housing Trust Fund and say, pay us $200,000. So you have to kind of like time these things right. Yes.
Well, I mean, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look into the Borden Street Champlain housing situation. That might be in 2026, is that we find out how that project works and how, if they do owe us anything, if they're ever gonna pay us, and, that would be our
Borden Street? What
Borden Street.
the
ORDEN.
was this a 2025 item? Or
26.
ambitious this
No.
year? 26.
26, we might think about just finding out what the real situation is there that Denise brought up.
Okay.
And sorry, I missed that, but I assume if I watch the video of the first part of this call, I'll get the update.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, that's from the presentation Mark did last Monday.
Yep. So either the select board, you'll hear about it, or what we talked about earlier today.
Yeah, so basically the Champlain Housing made that project on Borden Street. That's an affordable housing project. And part of the deal was they got loaned supposedly some money from the town, and that money was going to come back to the town to be revolved into some other affordable housing projects. They have now delayed the repayment by another 15 years and somebody said they think it's actually a grant. But anyway, that's that situation.
Chip applications. Well, we're meeting on October 29th. I guess this will help inform what we need to do here.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who can make it besides maybe Mairead and maybe me?
I cannot.
I will
Okay.
not be able to make it tomorrow.
No, Andrew, can you make it? No, so it'll just be maybe Mairead and maybe me.
Okay, and then community outreach and support. I think instead of going through all of these items,
No, let me just make that short for you, Mark.
yep,
I strongly think that the community outreach is the support process for other projects. It's not its own thing standalone. It has items in it that in terms of talking about what kinds of things you can do when you have a focus, but I don't want to spend time just generating community education and stuff without the connection to we're working on the gateway, we're working on FAR, we're working on Cochrane Road, we're working on whatever it is, water, sewer. That's what community engagement supports and does outreach for. It's not its own thing. It's the support for other things.
Okay.
And all those things underneath it are examples of how to do that.
Great. Well, we went through that. What I'll do is I'll try and put this into just the kind of like a document and rank order some of these items, and then we can kind of keep track of how we're breaking those down into smaller bits to accomplish. Cool. Town plan. So I saw an email. Raid, I think you're going to a town plan night. I forget what night it was, on the 19th or something like
Next
that.
week, I think it's Tuesday. I just
Tuesday
haven't
the
had a
4th.
chance to chat with my husband yet or find a babysitter.
Okay. So do we have everything that Virginia needs for the town plan? Do we have everything that is needed for the town plan from our committee?
Yes, so it's in good order. The housing committee section, the housing section is in good order. And the appendix has the strategic housing plan in its entirety and Mayread's graphics. How do you pronounce your name, Mayread? I would like to pronounce it correctly. How do you pronounce it? Your first
Mairead.
name.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I had to find
Oh,
my unmute button. Mairead rhymes with parade.
Mairead rhymes with parade. Okay, so in our presentation on the 4th, so the steering committee is presenting the draft of the plan to the select board and the public. And we are having our various steering committee members speak a little bit about each of the sections. There are 11 sections in the body of the plan, and each one or two were worked on by our steering committee members who looked at the survey results and analyzed the new information and did some drafting. And because the time is short, it's only 2 hours, we will not be able to explain the content of each section. So what I've asked the steering committee members, and Mairead, if she would like to, as a guest drafter from the housing committee, is to do 3 to 5 minutes of picking out what you think are the most important items, what has changed since 2018, if you want to do that, what the challenges are on each of these kinds, these topics that we have. So in housing, I think it will be a much more interesting presentation if I don't do all the talking. Not that I don't enjoy doing a lot of talking, but if other people talk, and give their perspectives. And the steering committee members are doing quite slightly different things from each other, but I think that's good. It gives the sense that many voices are involved in the making of this town plan. Some people are talking about the challenges that they see coming up for transportation. We got lots of pictures we're going to show of drowned cars and things. So I'm leaving it up to the whoever is talking about their particular section, 3 to 5 minutes, whatever you want to talk about. What's important to you from this, from the surveys, what the challenges are, what's next on the agenda, you know. A lot of the topics have different focuses, and there's a lot more anxiety right now about the future with the flooding, with the expenses, with the lack of housing, all of those things. So we're going to have little segments. So I've asked Mairead to do that if she's willing, and she said she probably was, right? If she could get a babysitter.
Yeah. I just need to have this conversation and figure out if we need to get one and then try to find someone. So I'll let you know as soon as
Yeah.
I can secure.
So I think it'll be an interesting 2 hours. We're going to have, you know, hopefully the first hour or so and a bit will be the presentation by the different folks. We have a handout that we're going to give, which is the introduction to the plan, which explains the details about the plan. And then, you know, to get a very complete idea of the content of it, people will have to go and read it.
Okay.
So that's what we're
Ray,
doing
do
there.
you need any help, assistance, organizing thoughts? I mean, I feel like we have the select board primed because a lot of the things that we talked about in the strategic plan are in the town plan as well. So we've kind of talked through that.
And she did a great job with the section and the graphics that
Yeah.
she submitted that we have now in the appendix. So there's some visual things there. You can have a couple of slides in our PowerPoint presentation if you want to put up any of the graphics or any key points or any pictures. We have, you know, we might have some appropriate pictures. We have a picture of Jolene Court. Anyway,
Thanks.
so
Yeah, thanks,
you'll have
Mark.
to,
I haven't really thought about it, but if I do, I'll try to get back to folks within the next 24 hours and let you know. If it's a yes, I might have some questions, but yeah, seems like a relatively short amount of time.
yeah, and you
No,
know,
like fine amount of time. I just mean, I think, you know, it'll be, yeah, it won't be too difficult.
it's been a very compressed timeline all along for various reasons that I won't go into to take up people's time, but so it's a compressed timeline, I admit. So you'll have to just do what you can, and you know, 3 to 5 minutes is not very long, so you won't have to generate too much to say in 3 to 5 minutes. So thank you for doing that.
All right, well, let us know, Raid. Recruitment efforts. So I did a post in Front Porch Forum. It was short. I didn't get any responses back. But you know, my time here is coming to a close as an active board member. I think maybe next time we need to think about transitioning chair position to somebody else. I'm looking at either Andrew or Mairead because I know Virginia's already a chair of a committee or more, and I don't think Connie has been raising her hand and is enjoying the
role of clerk quite well enough.
Keeping
Yes.
us organized, yes.
Yeah.
Rock, scissors, best out of three.
I think it's all you, Andrew. Your time to shine.
I'm not extremely stoked about the concept. We probably need to recruit, but I just don't know where my time will take me. I don't know. When I rejoined the committee after serving first year and a half, the committee was around. I got recruited through Front Porch Forum because you guys needed help, and I said I would come, but could allocate very little time outside of like committee hours. And I just don't know how much like I mark on a monthly basis, the number of hours you probably put into this is more than I'd want to absorb. I don't know what that number is, but it's probably 8 to 14. And I don't know how much bandwidth I have to be able to say yes to that without saying no to other critical things in my life. So
And
I don't want to let anybody down, but like I just don't know if I can't give it what it needs to show up here and have you guys spend your time here and like have a purposeful meeting and me be the one in charge of that.
And this is going to determine whether we get, how fast we can move on any of these actions, these part of the strategic housing plan. I mean, it all depends on who is available to do this work, who is interested in doing this work.
Yeah, and my goal is to help, get this strategic plan in place, right? Get some of the bones so that not that there's not a lot of work to do, but that I felt like in the first couple of years we spent a lot of time just figuring out like who we are and what is the direction and what do we action upon. Like I feel like there are some really tangible things that we could now execute on that maybe makes it a little bit easier to operate as a committee. And maybe there are folks that are like thinking about water sewer experts or somebody that knows about developing master plans. I don't know, right? A lawyer that could help set up a fund, right? Right? There's some things that I think people with specific skill sets could maybe latch on to now to say, hey, I could support the committee in this way because of the skill set that I own versus kind of interested in housing. Like let's chat about it, right? So I guess coming from here, if we could, does someone else want to take a crack at a front porch forum post? And thinking about your networks that you have, are there folks that may be a lawyer or are a water sewer expert or are, this or that might want to own a piece of that plan that we put together?
I did contact Sarah Heim, and she appreciated being asked, but with 3 kids and a variety of other things plus stormwater, over in Southview, she said she couldn't do it at this time. So I feel like there are people who can do it, but they can't always do it all the time, just like all of us have times that work for us, and then there's years that it doesn't work for us. So I'm willing to do another front porch forum posting and say specifically, here are some projects. We really are looking for people with some knowledge of those. Can you volunteer? And I'll see how that gets us. I'm not going to do it right in front of Halloween, but probably in November, I'd be willing to post it then and see if we can get someone who can think about that and join us. We're looking, you're leaving in December, so I can also say, this work will begin in January and just not try to get started during the holidays. We could still meet. But I'd really like to take a minute to talk about a different meeting time because I'll be on an airplane on November 25th and I simply cannot clerk from an airplane.
They have Wi-Fi.
Sometimes.
Okay, so November. So looking at what do we normally do? We do this Tuesday.
Yep. And I don't even know if Virginia has any times that are available to her because it sounds like she's totally swamped.
I mean, I could do the 11th or the 18th are available.
I can do the 11th and I can do the 18th.
I could
I'm
do either.
available either. I prefer the 18th.
Virginia, 18th or 11th? You're muted, Virginia, so we can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Yep. I have meetings on both the 12th and the 19th. On the 19th, we have our planning commission public hearing on the plan.
What about the 11th or the 18th?
Well,
Is the
the
preference for the
18th is the
18th?
night before the 19th. I will probably have to assess what has happened at the meeting on the 4th before I know what is going to happen on the 19th. I don't know.
Maybe the 11th?
Yeah. Veterans Day.
Oh,
No,
Valentine's Day.
Veterans.
That's been
Veterans
February.
Day, not Valentine's Day. It's
Time for
Veterans
bed.
Day.
Come on.
I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to meet on the 11th. There's so much logistical work associated with getting the town plan actually reviewed by the proper bodies, and that it's pretty much taking up all my time. But I guess between the 11th and the 18th, probably the 11th is best.
Andrew, can you make the 11th work?
Yeah, I'm fine with either. I only said the 18th because the 11th is so close.
It is
Don't worry.
close, and I mean, what are we going to talk about on the 11th?
Oh, in
Already
2
talked
weeks?
about everything.
I think we have. Did we have any open agenda items that we didn't cover today?
Not really.
It would
So it's
be
really about finding more staffing.
staffing and looking at a draft. I could try and finish a draft of just putting that. the
We
town
could do
plan
that.
item- Strategic plan items together into a plan.
We could do that just, asynchronously and not have a meeting in November.
Yeah, I think this committee did the combined November and December meeting last year, or it might have been another committee that I was on, but we had, like, instead of the late, a late meeting in November and then a late meeting that got into the Christmas holidays, we did like an early December meeting.
Well, do you
So-
want to just look at December 16th or 9th?
Yeah, we're scheduled for the 23rd. I don't think that's a great date for a meeting either, although I could theoretically make it.
Yeah, how about the 9th
December 9th?
for a
December-
November-December combined meeting?
December 9th for a combined meeting.
And we can just use, the point that Andrew brought up about talking about this policy about the Water and Sewer Commission as what we're going to talk about on the December 1st meeting with the Water and Sewer Commission. That will be fine.
Maybe
That- I
reviewing
think-
Connie's notes will help us. Because I really loved, Andrew, what you were sort of the first things that you led with, which is sort of like asking them for their expert opinion on like why this works
Yeah.
or why it doesn't. And yeah,
Yeah, I think that'll be fine for an initial conversation with the Water and Sewer Commission. So,
Okay, so what I've heard so far is our November 25th meeting is canceled, our December 23rd meeting is moved to December 9th. I'll get that set up with Duncan and Keith so they know about it. And our agenda so far is following up on our December 1st water sewer meeting and recruitment to this committee are the two things that surely need our attention so that we can keep working. Does that sound right?
yeah, and maybe if there's any feedback on the housing section of the town plan, if that has emerged either in the November 4th meeting or the Planning Commission's November 19th meeting. If there is any, maybe there won't be any. I don't know.
So,
That's okay. That's great. That sounds like an agenda.
Yeah, so that's the combined November and December Housing Committee meeting. It's a good way to look at it.
Sounds like everybody's okay with that.
yep, that sounds good to me.
All righty.
And is it
Thank
at
you.
7 o'clock, or is toddler time kind of moving towards 8 o'clock?
I have no idea. I think I just need to plan to get a sitter every time for now.
And you know, when committee membership changes, we can revisit the schedule again.
Yeah,
Maureen.
yeah, because I was wondering if folks had like a noon hour ever available, but yeah, we don't have to change it now.
It could happen.
Ew,
right.
that's funny.
Why?
No, I'm just kidding.
We better have a party for Mark's last meeting.
Oh, yeah. That's on December 9th now.
Number 9.
Virtual
Right.
refreshments. Yep.
Bring your
Virtual
own-
refreshments.
Bring your own.
Party hats.
thing.
Party hats.
Yeah. Party hats, definitely. All right.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks.
Thank you,
Have a good
Mark.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
See
Bye-bye.
you on the 1st, some of you on December 1st.
You bet. And thank you, Virginia.